Traveling to consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton Cuteri, and in today's podcast, we are getting into some of the news over the past week that I found interesting and noteworthy. News that I thought was worth bringing to your attention. And honestly, this week felt a little slow, but there are two kind of congruent stories that I felt were very important for us to discuss, to bring up, to go over. And number one is all of these flights that seem to be malfunctioning, crashing. It seems like it's getting out of control. So in the event that you don't know, a few days ago, I don't have the exact date on hand, but there was a plane that collided with a Black Hawk helicopter, a military helicopter, and it ended up killing 67 people on impact. Very tragic. It was in the news. They were trying to figure out what the cause of it was. The control tower, the plane, the helicopter. They're still investigating. 67 dead. And then a few days later, we had a plane crash in Philadelphia, which crashed into a neighborhood, killing one person on the ground and then the 6 people that were in the plane itself. And then on the same day, a plane fell out of the sky in Alaska, and it looked like a fighter jet, but just looked like it kind of just fell straight down and exploded. I don't know if you saw that. And then just today, February 2nd, United Airlines flight from Houston to New York had to evacuate after there was an engine issue where it looked like one of the engines actually caught fire. And then, if this wasn't enough, if you go back to January, I believe 2nd, there was a plane crash in Southern California that killed 2 people and injured 18. And I could have sworn there was at least a couple more around that time period, but I could not find it. But to me, it just seems like there's something going on. Something's going on here with the sky, with flight, with air. I don't know if this has any relation to the orbs that have been seen and have been continuously been seen over the last several months. But it does seem that all these plane issues have been arising, have been coming forward, if you will, since those orbs, drones, whatever you want to call them, took flight. So I don't know what's going on, but it's all very, very chaotic. It seems weird. It seems out of control. You hear what they're talking about, what the press, the White House is putting out there, and it just doesn't seem congruent with what's going on. So it's a very big question mark, in my opinion, as to what is going on, what should be happening, XYZ. So we'll stay close on that, because I have a feeling that this is not stopping anytime soon. But there's bigger things that are happening on a world stage that I definitely do want to give my opinion on. And the first one is that Trump has ordered his first airstrikes in Somalia to kill terrorists, allegedly. I have a very difficult time with things like this. I mean, there's so much evidence that these terrorist organizations, in air quotes, are actually funded by our own government. They're funded by the CIA. They're funded maybe by the FBI. Probably not the FBI, but it would be CIA. They're funded by ourselves. Remember what happened in Afghanistan whenever we just left $80 billion worth of military equipment for the Afghani terrorists to take? So it seems like this is a part of the illusion. a way to find the validation in killing innocent people. At least just killing people in general, whether they're innocent or not. I don't like the idea that my money, that your money, that our money is being spent on killing people. I object to that. And I think it's evil in all forms. And the worst part is that we're funding the people that we then fund to kill. Like, there's sometimes I feel like I'm just taking crazy pills over here. It's like, okay, let's stop funding the terrorists, because how are they getting military grade weapons? And that's really where it starts and ends, How are they getting military grade weapons? You, me, we are unable to get military grade weapons. Maybe you can if you go through like a ton of clearings, a ton of what are they called? Like background checks. You have to be mentally sound. A lot of tests involved for military grade weapons. A lot of intelligence. You have to be intelligent about guns. There's so much. There's so many reasons. You get put on several lists. Yada yada. It's insane how much happens if you want to buy a military grade weapon, and yet these people have hundreds of thousands maybe of military grade weapons, and they're not even in America. How are they getting it? If you've ever seen Iron Man 1, the iconic Marvel movie that starts it off, it highlights this perfectly. It shows it perfectly. If you don't remember, Tony Stark, he's producing military grade weapons because he believes in America, wants to defend peace, the nation. And then he gets abducted by this terrorist group. And whenever he's with this terrorist group, he starts seeing Stark Industries on all of the weapons packaging that they have at the terrorist organization. Well, it turns out that his industry, Stark Industry, unbeknownst to him, is funding both sides of the war. They're selling guns to terrorists, and then they're also selling guns to the American government to fight each other with. Now, the piece that gets left out is, how are these terrorist organizations getting the money? How are these terrorist organizations getting the money to be able to afford these weapons that are very, very expensive, especially in comparison to their currency, right? So they have to be getting funding for the guns, the weapons. How? Where? How are they getting them? Where is it coming from? Why are we funding it? And okay, yeah, now we're going to just spend money on airstrikes to destroy a base, kill some people. It's very disgusting. It's quite nauseating once you get down to the details of realizing that the reason terrorists exist are to prop up an enemy, to prop up the military industrial complex so that they can double dip on both sides. Just answer it. Where do they get the money? Where do they get the money to buy military grade weapons? And what's their incentive? What is their incentive? Because you're not going to be doing it. Like, no one's just like, yeah, I definitely want to, like, screw over this country, blah, blah, blah. Unless their incentive is the fact that we have been completely destabilizing their country, their politics, their governments for the last, 50, 60, 70 years, whenever the CIA started. And that's all declassified. So, to me, it feels like we're creating the bad guys. And not only are we creating them, then we're funding them. And then we're justifying it by spending more of our money on it. And speaking of money, if you're not upset yet, we have a whole nother money issue that is going to be hitting our country and going to be hitting our pockets as American citizens. Trump has announced and has officially, I think, signed it in. I don't know exactly what happened, but he has announced tariffs on Canada, Mexico of 25% and on China of 10%. And of course, these countries weren't going to take it laying down. They decided then to impose tariffs on the United States. And all I can think, first of all, number one, who's this going to hurt is the very first thing, right? Because it's not Trump, it's not Trudeau, it's not, is it President Xi Jinping? President Xi. I apologize to the president of Canada or Mexico. I do not know the name of her. But it's not going to hurt them. It's no skin off their backs. It's going to hurt you and me. It's going to hurt the common man. It's going to punish us because their egos cannot handle whatever it is, the trade discrepancies, the money that they need, which is really what it comes down to, is the amount of money that they need. Because I've told you this before on a podcast, I'm going to say it again. We are in the midst of a financial collapse in America. We are. It's almost inevitable. And these tariffs are not going to help it. The idea is, short term, is we'll tariff them, we'll get more money in to our government, we can fund these programs, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that the spending is absolutely ridiculous in America, and it is not going to reverse course. And even more so, to prove my point that this is going to hurt the common man, is that Trump should have waited. He should have waited until after repealing the 16th Amendment, the one that is arguably unconstitutional. He should have waited until they revoked the 16th Amendment, which is the federal income tax. He should have banned the federal income tax, and then you can put tariffs on foreign countries, because that was his whole thing is we're going to get rid of the income tax and then we'll put tariffs on people, on foreign countries, to make up for it. So instead, we're going to be keeping, at least, I don't know, I haven't heard him talk about it since getting elected, but the income tax is still here. Federal income tax is still here. So now prices are going to go up on products from China, Mexico, and Canada, which we have a lot of those. And then our government is going to be slapped with tariffs to try to get them in. It's going to create an absolute nightmare for anyone in the supply chain industry, and going to jack up prices for us, the common man and woman.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Life sometimes appears to be random and cruel, and in our lowest moments we feel lonely and insignificant. But what if we had access to the best advice from history's greatest books and sages, condensed into 5-minute lessons that taught us how to rise above anxiety, depression, and fear? Life's Three Things podcast is designed to do just that. If you feel you need a quick boost of strength, wisdom, or inspiration, subscribe to Life's Three Things from author Manny Garcia, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And it's so crazy too, because Trump even tweeted out, all in capital letters, quote, "We will make America great again, and it will be worth the price that must be paid." And to me, that just felt so out of touch with Americans, so out of touch with us, not even just Americans, but Canadians, Mexicans, maybe even Chinese. It's like you're going to cause so much more stress on the people at the bottom. The common man and woman. Prices will be going up because of this. They didn't get rid of the federal income tax, and he just threw the tariffs in there. The whole point, and I know I'm getting a little frustrated about this, but I listened to him talk about this during the campaign, and I liked it. I was like, okay, fine, that makes a little bit of sense. But the whole point of the tariffs tariffs, the whole point of the tariffs was to replace the money that we were losing on federal income tax. And we still have to pay it. You still have to pay it. We still have to pay it. So I just see all this as such a bad look. It's just such a bad look on so many ways. And it's not even just like it being a bad look. It's not even about the look. It's about what's going to happen. It's about the outcome of these decisions. And this is why we need spiritual people to get involved in politics. Is because they'll care more about the common man, the common person, as opposed to caring about the way America looks. So Trump's like serving up Canada and Mexico and China. He's really taking it to them. Doesn't matter if the common man's going to have to be eaten out of a soup can. No. So it really, to me, it's really sad. It's unfortunate. I think this is also going to accelerate that financial collapse that we've been talking about. I just see that as like being impending whenever that's about to happen. I don't know when, but I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, somewhere in that time frame. And we'll see. I mean, maybe sooner. I don't know. I really don't. It's sad too. But I guess the optimistic part of me is like, well, maybe we have to, usually revolutions don't happen until it hits people financially. Revolutions usually don't happen until there's something to lose for, not to live for, to die for. If you don't have the ability to have money or to thrive, then what do you have left? And that's usually whenever revolutions occur. It's sad. It's really unfortunate. It really is. But hopefully you can at least take this knowledge as some form of way of like preparing for it. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't suggest anything to you. Gold's probably a good way to go. Also because I'm a very avid proponent of the gold standard. We have to make money more physically based. And that's really what is also a reason that this financial collapse is going to happen, is all money is just ones and zeros. I mean, if you really look into it, you pull back behind the curtain, it's like it's all on loans. It just all money is essentially loaned out. I think it's like 5% might actually be cash. And even that is just paper. There's no physical world value. And we're about to see what happens. It's not attached to the physical world. So it's just, what does he say? It's a fugazi, it's a fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy. If you've ever seen Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, he was talking about the stock market whenever he said that quote, but it very easily goes to money as well. It's literally whatever we make it to be. And the fact that we are 36 trillion, 30 some mid to high 30s trillion dollars in debt. And then Americans need to pay more and all of this stuff. It's not going to be pretty. This is not good. This is not good leadership. I mean, and I don't know. I don't know why. I have a feeling it's because it's not in the best interest of the people. But I hope I'm wrong about that. I do. I mean, don't get me like, I hope all of this is wrong. I hope there is no financial collapse. I hope that we can correct course. I hope that these tariffs are going to make it cheaper for Americans. Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. But I hope so. I hope this is going to help the common man. I hope that, like, everything I've told you in this entire podcast, like, I want to be wrong. You don't understand. Like, I fight with myself over these ideas because I want to be wrong. No part of me wants it to be true that the American government, the CIA, federal agencies are taking our money, creating terrorist organizations, spending money on terrorist organizations, giving them weapons, and then using our money to then kill said people. Like, how insane is that? And I don't want that to be true. So I look into it as deep as I possibly can because I don't want that to be true. And when you get to the bottom of it and that's the only truth that is left, it's very, very heartbreaking. And quite frankly, it's a huge reason that I felt called to get into politics. Is because there's these ideas. It's not even ideas. It's just the actions that are being taken do not indicate desiring the best thing for the American people. And I mean, the common man and just people across the entire globe. I don't see it being done. It doesn't exist. How? Why? So I say all of this hopefully to get you inspired. Maybe not inspired, but the inspirational part is that there is a party out there, the American Congress Party, that is actively aware of all of these things and wants to bring peace and harmony back to earth, back to nature. We need to restore our balance. And so I hope that, as terrible as all of that sounds, you realize that there is a force here for good, for harmony, for peace, for prosperity. And we need you. You're listening to this podcast. We need you. Talk to people about these ideas. Tell them about the American Congress Party. Share this podcast. It might seem like such a small action, but it's so important. It's so powerful. So please share. Please share this podcast. Please have these conversations. Because the future belongs to those who care about the next generation. I guess the future always belongs to the next generation. And I'm tired of seeing the world stage become less and less and less and less. Always choosing between the lesser of two evils. Less money in our bank accounts. Less money for the 99%. It's really sad. The division between the rich and the poor is getting bigger too. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to that. Probably not. But it is. And so it's very heartbreaking. But it's motivating at the same time, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be putting myself in a position with a political party that nobody's heard of to attempt at saving the world, to attempt at creating world peace. And I don't know if I will. I don't even know if I can, but I have to try. We have to try. It's such a daunting task. It's such a tall order. But we have to try. And it's so simple. It can be as simple as sharing this podcast, to as complex as getting involved in the American Congress Party, running for local office, running for federal office. It's up to us. No one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And with that being said, we'll talk about more in regards to saving ourselves whenever I see you in the 6th dimension.